over 3 days. Each trip costs time. Each trip becomes unproductive. If you can do 1 trip, saving 2 trips, that's a huge increase in productivity. So it's those type of techniques that the long-term, i.e. the 3-week algorithms are doing. But then when you come to the day of service, you all know if you run a service operation that you can have the best schedule in the world. But at 2 minutes past 8, when your day starts, it's already out of alignment. Somebody's running late, somebody's car doesn't work, the customer's rung in, wants to change the appointment. So it's important that you run the system that has real-time algorithms that are constantly adjusting the work plans for your workforce to reflect the changes in the day. So if an engineer is able to report, I am running late, what the engineer is able to do is to then drive those updates directly into the algorithms from the handset, and the system will automatically adjust the rest of his schedule. That adjustments could include moving work to another engineer, as long as that engineer has the skills, has the parts, etc. to accommodate that. So you don't want to have people receiving phone calls, ringing round, trying to manually reschedule work. It's all got to be optimized and it's got to be automated. And key to that is the algorithms and the mobile. We've touched on mobile in the field. Mobile in the field is incredibly important about this empowerment. So if you have an asset-intensive environment, what you want to ensure is that the engineer is able to draw down the necessary information about that equipment, about its service history. And also, while they're on site, you want the engineer to be able to interact with your systems, recognizing that not only is there a problem which I've now fixed with this piece of equipment, but there's another problem with another asset. And you want the engineer to be able to interact through the mobile device so that he can update the systems on preventative work that he's doing on another asset. Likewise, when you have work which is of a multi-stage nature, multi-stage nature could be that one person goes in and performs one set of tasks, another day another person comes in and performs another set of tasks, and that may span over a number of days, or you may need to have 2 or 3 people coordinated to arrive there at the same time. By exposing that cluster of project work to everybody that's going to be performing that work, what they're able to do is to make intelligent decisions in the process. So intelligent decisions could be, for example, recognizing that somebody's coming in to replace something. But in actual fact, what are they coming in to replace at a later stage isn't faulty. It's just out of calibration. It can be adjusted. So that person's able to recognize that future work is going to occur, is qualified to make those changes, can make those changes and close down that task without the other person having to go to site, so thereby saving an entire visit of performance. Likewise, if you're operating with customers, what you're able to do is to enable the customer to understand what's happening in their service delivery, when the next person will be arriving, saving them having to call into the contact center to get their updates. That saves phone calls, it saves additional time that's lost on the back-end systems. Management information. Just creating optimal work patterns is just one part of the process. Being able to report on the difference between what you plan to do and what you're actually doing is critical, because what that enables you to do is start to understand, are your processes efficient? Where can you drive greater efficiency in change management programs? And also collecting the data and feeding that data into your forecasting process so that your forecasting process becomes more accurate because it has richer data over time. So you can see this loop of workforce management is a critical thing. So optimization and taking control of time doesn't just start today and at the minute of service. It starts, as we said, could start 18 months beforehand. And then finally, because it's all running within one enterprise suite, it's sharing the same data models. All the data is compatible because it is the same data structure. So you're able to understand the information that's provided, act as management to make decisions on how to use that data to drive the efficiencies within your operations. Now, all of these systems are designed to interact with various upstream systems. We talked about CRM, ERP, for example, HR systems at an enterprise level, your talent management systems. It'll draw the data as necessary, manipulate that data, and then push those to the upstream systems. It's absolutely critical that data is mastered in the right area. But through enterprise integration, you enable that data to flow, gets manipulated, and get pushed back up. So for the utility customers, here's an example of a utility that we worked with in the US. The savings were around a very broad range of savings. So by being able to create a model that enabled us to understand the parts that were being held by the engineers, so when the parts management system allocated parts to the engineers on a daily basis, the scheduling application is aware of those parts. As they go through the day, degregating the use of the parts on the mobile, the system is able to make decisions on, do you still have the critical parts necessary to perform work later in the day or over a period of day, because some of our customers have engineers that go off on a weekly schedule of work. So by being able to take control of parts, they were able to dramatically reduce the parts that they were carrying. They were able to reduce the number of engineers that were involved. They were able to improve service. And as you can see, there was a substantial $77 million improvement to the bottom line. So as you can see, First Energy in the US, this is First Energy are in the business of maintaining boilers and home heating equipment as a division. And as you can see, substantial improvement, 19% increase of productivity for their field force. That's a substantial increase in productivity. I mean, we are their most strategic partner because we enable them to take control of their engineering base. Now, the applications are highly scalable, from just 100 to over 30,000 engineers. So it's a very highly scalable architecture that fits within that. Those that are in the water utility, so Anglian Water utility in the UK is very highly regulated. The regulator will sit and the regulator will impose performance levels on an organisation. We've been working with Anglian Water for the last 5 years, and during that 5-year journey they use the forecasting, planning and real-time scheduling. They have been able to substantially improve their business. Now, what's interesting with the water utilities is that the regulator is now changing the metrics of which they're being measured. So you have to have, for example, to get positive, I mean, the way that it works is you get positive scores by the regulator, you get more money to invest. You don't get positive scores, you don't get so much money to invest. So there's a real incentive for a regulated organisation to perform well. The regulations are changing now, where it's going to be much more subjective measures. Are your customers elated with your service? I had a meeting with Ian Fry, dinner with Ian Fry, the CEO of Anglian Water, and we were discussing this because the reality is, if you arrived within 20 minutes and somebody's had a backup in their sewage and their house is not in a pleasant state in the kitchen, it doesn't matter whether you were there in 10 minutes or 2 hours. They're not going to be elated with your service. But what the regulator is doing is the regulator is forcing the water authorities to actually work in a preventative way, to start working at maintaining assets so they don't fail. So the way that you avoid bad scores is that in actual fact you don't have these assets break, which has a knock-on effect. So we're working with them to help them to schedule activities based on projected failure and utilisation. So they're developing some software that enables them to manage their assets, and then we're working to bring the output of the monitoring software into the real-time scheduling application so that we can get the right type of engineer with the right skills to the right assets before issues occur. And it's working strategically with customers that enables them to be successful. So first of all, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate how important it is to you and your organisation. I hope from this brief introduction that you have some insight into the way that we work with our customers. Thank you very much.
Perhaps Steve is right. Maybe business isn't anything at all like a bucket. Perhaps another way of thinking of it is perhaps building a business is more like a set of building blocks. The idea of looking at a business as an organism, as a whole entity that works together is nothing new. Folks, I suspect you can see what's about to happen here. But I reckon you'd probably want to see it happen anyway, right? Let's imagine that this man over here is our architect who is due to fly down to Durban. And of course, he misses his flight. Well, not all that serious, is it? It's very satisfying to watch. But perhaps less satisfying when it's your building, your brand, or your business. These are the kinds of things that we want to prevent from happening.
Now, it's at this point in the presentation when most CEOs would assail you with a string of slides on our background, our heritage, and our accolades, of which there are many. But we value your time. There's just one thing I'd like to say to you today. This stuff works. You've heard Steve tell you a bit more about what we can do. This works, and we're bringing it to you in Africa today. Ladies and gentlemen, About Time has been born. Feel free to give us a call to find out more how we can help your organization to optimize its time.